I'm gonna make a video game. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. So the game I plan on making is going to be based on 2 other games I've made. The first one I made in 3 months, and you were a ball or sphere or something that fought waves of enemies and progressed through some checkpoints until you got to the end. As much as I like to pretend that it was polished, it really wasn't. And for that reason, I'm going to call this one the Forbidden version. Wanting to revive the project, I created another version of it, which was pretty much just a polished version of the other version. There were more levels, more enemies, and because it was a rehash, I set a goal for it to come out about a month later. It may have taken a little longer. To be fair, it was on and off, but still. Even then, I don't even consider either of them finished, or at least fulfilling and completely polished now, so into the abyss they go, never to be seen again outside this video. But imagine learning from your mistakes. Because I don't learn from mine, I set out to create another game with the same premise. But hey, I might change up some stuff. Like, you know how the first 2 games were in 2 dimensions instead of 2, I'm gonna do 3 dimensions. Also, there was a level system and supposed to be an ending to the other games, which I'll get rid of in favor for a roguelike, because believe it or not, making the same type of game over and over again gets really repetitive. It ends up making sense though, because I implemented an ability system in the second version of the game, and in the script, I even pointed out how I was giving it the roguelike treatment or something like that. Because of all of this, I'm sure this game will be a quadrillion, billion, gazillion, a million times better than the other ones, and hopefully it won't take nearly as long. Alright, it's been a minute 30 seconds. You got the lore and definitely got the point. It's about time to actually be productive. Like I said, I wanted the game to be 3D, so just gotta change this real quick, and there you go. Now we got the layout. Top-down view, you can move the player around, but it's boring without any action, so it's time for some conflict, which means I needed some enemies. The way I thought of some enemy designs was that I opened Google Drawings, opened the shapes menu, looked at what shapes there were, and yeah, that's about it. So I either recycled old ideas from the previous 2 games, or just made new ones. I mostly use the first way. While it's cool that the enemies have special things to make them unique, like being able to spread quickly, bounce around, track your location, and god forbid, make you obey traffic laws, quite possibly the most tragic of them all. What's not very cool is getting jumped and beat down constantly because you can't fight back, so let's change that. For the combat system, I did what a game called Smash It did, where your health and the amount of shots you have left are the same. Along with that, I added a system that heals you after some time, along with giving you an insightful message if you can't fire anymore, because otherwise, you're kinda screwed. Like in the Forbidden version, I never fixed that. And you might be thinking, well, that's stupid. A lot of roguelike shooters crowd you with enemies and get really spammy. Well, I got a solution to a problem or Smash It created. Smash It has these crystals lying around the level sometimes, and if you break them, you get health back. So, like usual, I got inspired, and now you might be thinking, wow, that's even more stupid. Why add this extra step and overcomplicate everything? I don't know. To put it all together, I made a wave spawner and a progression system, but it's still boring, so there has to be something else we can do. Of course there is, there's like 5 to 6 minutes of this video left. In version 1, the game has it so that if you got enough kills, you could shoot more bullets per shot, even though the amount of health used is the same. You know, kind of like another certain game I mentioned. In version 2, I switched it up for abilities, and that seems to be the staple for many roguelike shooters anyway, so that's what I'm gonna go with. So from there, I switched between working on abilities, and then I got bored, so I started working on the enemies and waves again, and then I got bored, so I started working on the abilities again, then back to enemies and waves, rinse and repeat, not important. What is important, and also is the main concern of mine, is the enemies though. I am only on wave 11, which is 2 minutes and 40 seconds into the game, and if we do the math, the game's gonna be 10 minutes long at the rate I use up new enemies. Sure, I could come up with new enemy ideas, but they're getting kinda weird, and I can already feel the scope creep kicking in, so maybe I'll just add some intermission, because I thought the player deserved a nice break from everything. Or the game can be made even more intense because it's boss fight time. Introducing Big Boy. Its name comes from the fact that it's like you, but bigger. Like with some of the enemies, I use coroutines, which is just a script's way of running code wherever you want it, and also made use of these time stoppers. No idea if this is a good way to do it, but if it works, it works. And sometimes I pair the coroutines with animations, which let you keyframe certain properties, like the size of the boss when going in and out of frame, I think. From there, I went back and forth between working on abilities, polishing the boss, working on the enemies, and whatever else. You know, it would be nice to say something more interesting than this, but that's pretty much the entire process, and the project took long enough already. But there's more aspects of the game I definitely can talk about, which conveniently segues to the next part of the video. The game has changed a lot since the beginning, but if there's one thing that hasn't changed, it's the visuals. They're basic, and I realize that making the game based around shapes probably doesn't help, but hey, weeball. I got bored of me getting bored of switching between making enemies and abilities, so I decided on revamping the visuals with post-processing. More specifically, I improved the visuals with something called Bloom, aka thing that makes game as bright as you want. And now you can go one of two routes, either make the bloom blindingly bright so people can't see your game, or be lame and use it to make the game actually look better. I settled with the latter. At this point, I began to wrap up on creating new content. This video couldn't possibly do justice on how time-consuming these things are, and I already feel the scope creep. The problem is, the actual waves in the game only goes on for about 12 minutes, plus the boss fight, which might not even take that long. All of this seems really concerning. If you're an absolute amateur though, which I'm not, my solution is that after you finish the new content, the game goes into endless mode, where everything is thrown at you while the game becomes progressively harder, so it shouldn't go on forever. You could probably guess where I got this idea from. They're good ideas, and I wouldn't even call it copying, I'd call it being smart. You know, I think it's about time to reveal something. There's been a glaring problem in the game that you may not have noticed because I can just hide it under a bunch of background music, voiceovers, and sound effects within the video itself. But take a closer look at the clip. Did you see it? As the player keeps going through the game, you can see many things that should be making noises, yet no sounds are being made. What do you think of this? Probably not well, because sound design is important in most games, including this one. And that's what I set out to do next. For the sound design, I imported the sound effects from the old game because I honestly don't care anymore. And the method I used to record the old sound effects, which is how I recorded the new ones, is that I made random noises and said, yeah, that's good enough. For the music, I copied some of the songs from the old game to the new one. Man, I copped out on this project. There's still new music in the game though, and in the end, that's all that really matters. And yeah, I use GarageBand to make my fire beats, gotta make it out of the suburbs somehow. I don't know what else to say development wise from here on out. I mean, I made a main menu. It doesn't have much to do with the game, but it looks cool, so we're chilling. Besides that, this period is what I like to call the This point in time was kind of a limbo between polishing the game, fixing most bugs, reworking things for some reason, adding unnecessary detail for better or worse, all of the above really. Meanwhile, I left the problems I couldn't fix or didn't care enough about in the game, plus I made no effort to optimize it like any good dev would. I'm pretty sure I fixed every major game-breaking bug, but if there's any you find, you tell me and I'll do absolutely nothing about them. Moving on, I made a game icon, built the game, and still found game-breaking bugs, which should be fixed by now, and then I built the official final for real files for the game. Now the last few things that we're to do were to add info to the page on itch.io, upload the files, add cool stuff to the page, and I'm done. There should be a link in the description where you can get the game and play it, and enjoy it? I don't know. Yeah, this project is one giant fever dream. Going back to this, I did make a big deal out of taking forever to make version 2, so it makes sense that I make a big deal out of that aspect in this version. So how long did it actually take? It took like 5 months. Once again, I fell back into the mindset that every little detail needs to be perfect and polished. I'm starting to see a pattern. I genuinely might need to get this worked out. Nah, we're good. If you do the math, it only took like, what, 450% of the deadline? Not too bad. Complete side note, but I'm putting a lot of focus on how much of a mess making the game was, but now that I'm editing the video, it's completely out of place too. Naturally, the video itself took weeks or months to edit. If it's not apparent already, I really don't know what I'm doing. Moral of the story is, oops. Anyway, that's the video, or devlog, or whatever, and now you know the entire story of this project. I spent way too much time and effort on this thing, and I'm really glad this is over with so I can move on to other stuff. And as for the future of this channel, who knows what will happen to it. Maybe I'll upload like a year later or something.